And so let's talk about the 7 practice growth stages that are broken down in the book. The first stage is when you open your practice and you're in solo practice, meaning one doctor in the practice, and you're collecting less than $20,000 per month, right? This is really you're just getting started in practice. This is usually, at least, when you're just getting started in practice. Now, some doctors, they get stuck here and they never move beyond this first stage. And there's reasons for that we've seen. And we'll get more of that in a second. The second stage is when you break through that $20K per month but you're still in solo practice. That's that second stage. So you're getting a little bit more stability, but still in solo practice. Moving into the third stage, which is when you go into a 2-doctor practice, right? So this is typically a doctor with an associate. Sometimes it's a husband-wife team, right? But it's a 2-doctor practice. The fourth stage is an associate-driven practice. This is when you have when you have 3 total doctors in the practice or more, right? So typically it's a clinic director with 2 associates, 3 associates, whatever it is. That's practice growth stage 4. Practice growth stage 5 is when you move from 1 location to 2 locations, right? A 2-location practice. And then practice growth stage 6 is when you have 3 locations or more. And then the last stage is the transitioning out of practice stage, which every doctor will get into at some point. That is the last stage of upper cervical practice when you're transitioning out of practice. And so I want to talk about a little bit, a few of these stages. And really the first one we want to focus in on is the very first stage, right? That first stage, under $20,000 per month in solo practice. This is a stage where we see a lot of people get stuck, right? It's a place where we see doctors who get stuck here for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and working with these doctors, we're working with a lot of doctors in practice growth stage 1. What are some of the things, Tony, that you've seen with doctors who are in this stage who, well, I want you to talk about 2 different groups. One is the group that we've worked with, that we've seen breakthrough with, right? Where they've been in this stage for years or even to decades, and they break through and they move from out of this stage into practice growth stage 2 or even 3 or whatever relatively quickly, versus a group of doctors who are in practice growth stage 1. We work with them with similar tools, but they don't have that breakthrough. What is the difference between those 2 docs that you've seen?
Right. And I mean, this is so important, right? Because, and some of you listening right now or watching this, so you're past this. But I'm telling you what, you can relate to some of these things, right? And you can be you could be mentoring somebody. So, I would say pay attention to these things too. But obviously that it's so important because this is a practice that's the most vulnerable, right? And this is the stage where some people throw in the towel. They say, hey, I can't do this. And the business fails. And that's a sad day because we want more upper cervical chiropractors in the world. The world needs more. Anyway, so let's take a look at this. So the docs who have breakthroughs in this, what are the markers of that? The biggest thing that I see is the mindset. I would say mindset and habits. So having intentional focus on minding your mind and intentional focus on your day-to-day habits, blocking your time, prioritizing things, scheduling yourself to where even before you even get to the office, having routines, having habits, and then of course during office hours as well, but making sure that you're intentional about those things and minding your mind. So making sure that you stay motivated, stay driven, stay focused on the mission, right? Those are key things. Oftentimes, doctors that are having these breakthroughs, they have a tenacity, they have a hunger, they have this attitude of, I have to make this work. Not well, I hope it does. Or I need to, maybe can we just get some ads rolling? No, we don't want to do that. We don't want that. We want to have a doctor who's intentional about it, going what can I do? What can I do today tell me what to focus on. Like they're coachable, they're hungry, right? And they implement. And they're not, it's kind of like when you have the patient that comes to you and is like, doc, what do I got to do? And you're like, hey, keep your appointments, mind what you eat, mind your thoughts, even, thoughts, traumas, toxins, you get into those things and the patient's just eating it up. They're hungry for it, right? They're making their appointments. They're like, how do I hold better? And they're excited when they do. They're just engaged and they're intentional and they're owning it. Those are the docs that make it every time.
Yeah.
Not some of the time, every time.
Every time.
Because how could you not? I mean, like it's that's like most of the battle is having those things.
And ultimately what those docs need is a guide. They just need a guide. They need somebody to come alongside them and show them the way. And that's
accountability.
And that's what we've been able to do with so many docs who do have that breakthrough. We have we call it our 180-day breakthrough for a reason, right? If you apply these things and you make these changes, because that's the key, right? It's will you change or not? That's going to be the difference between whether or not you'll have a breakthrough if you're in practice growth stage 1 or not. So many docs in practice growth stage 1 get stuck in doing what they've always done, and they're unwilling to change.
Right. Yeah. If you're familiar with, anybody's ever familiar with Dave Ramsey. So the Ramsey Solutions, he talks about the 7 baby steps to, getting out of debt and investing and stuff like that. And he mentions, he's like, well, I got people that come in and they do it. And they say, oh, Dave, it doesn't work. He's like, you can't do ish. You can't kind of sort of do it. You can't do ish. It's like, if you're going to be in, let's do it. Go. Let's do this. Let's get accountability. Let's work on these things. And you have to implement, right? Like that's the key. You have to be all in and do it. It's just like a patient. If a patient came in for just a couple of visits and go, it doesn't work. Or they're going to apply some of the things that you mentioned to them, but they're going to keep eating junk food and popping pills. Well, that's going to be working against you, against the healing of the body. And it's the same way. If you don't have the right habits and mindset and willingness to go at things, it's going to be working against the growth of the practice. Now, which leads us to the whole, like, who are the people who don't make it? It's because they're not focused. They don't implement. They don't accept accountability sometimes, or sometimes it's fear or doubt, right? Because it's the fear and doubt that it really is the reason why there's not an implementation. So a lot of times, too often, there's not an accurate valuation of what the doctor brings to the table. Ergo, they're not charging enough, or they're not charging for everything that they do. Yep. Maybe because they just feel like, I don't know if that I give that great of a correction. I don't know if I feel confident to do these care plans, or I don't feel confident to charge X amount, or, just those kinds of things. And so it comes from a lack of confidence and self-valuation to be able to say, like what I deliver, this is life-changing. This is worth it, So those are some of the things that prevent somebody from growing, and almost in other stages too. Those same things can creep back in. For any of the stages. Absolutely. So, if you're listening to this and you've got a couple associates, by the way, maybe they're struggling with some of these things.
Yep.
Because it's their, practice within the practice, so to speak. Right. And so maybe they're starting to struggle. I tell you what, any doctor who's coming out of school, like there's a degree of it in there somewhere of like, am I delivering the goods? I don't know. And so that conveys over to patient education and being able to execute as a doctor.
Absolutely. And the reason why I wanted to make sure we talk about this stage is because, based on our survey data, there's still about 23% of all upper cervical practices that are
1 out of 4.
Yeah, that are in practice growth stage 1, right? So it's a big chunk, right? That's literally 1 out of 4. So you're looking at hundreds of practices that are in this stage, and it's a stage that it limits the capacity of upper cervical in general, right? Like if every single one of those practices were to double, the difference it would make in those communities and upper cervical in general would be significant. And so we love helping doctors in this stage. We love helping them get that breakthrough because it is absolutely life-changing for not only the doctor and his patients, but the community at large. and upper cervical, right? I mean, this is when a doctor can go from collecting $15,000 a month to collecting $40,000 a month and hiring an associate. What's happened? Well, that practice has doubled the amount of people that they're helping. It's now has another doctor who can now work in that practice, right? That community is better for it, and upper cervical is better for it across the board. So the impact you can make by getting in a practice growth stage 1 practice to have a breakthrough is huge.
Right.